The PlayStation and the Xbox have been directly competing brands for well over a decade now, so it's no wonder that so many parallels and comparisons are drawn between the two. These debates encompass everything from the consoles themselves to their peripherals and their accessories. The latest iterations of these consoles, the PS4 and the Xbox One, are no exceptions. And we can't talk console peripherals without mentioning the controller. It's easily the most important peripheral for these consoles, and is in general more relevant now than ever with its regular introduction into PC gaming. So with that in mind, today we'll be taking a look at the DualShock 4 and the Xbox One S controllers. What makes them special, and how do they compare to one another? We'll start with Sony's DualShock 4 controller. The DualShock 4 saw the first big change up to Sony's controllers since the introduction of the Analogue Sticks, finally bringing a change from the Sony's "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" design philosophy. This isn't to say that the DualShocks 1 through 3 were identical. The controllers were tweaked for the better with each new version, but they looked almost exactly the same. The DualShock 4, however, proved that there's room for growth, and it's superior to the previous ones in nearly every regard. Not only is the new design more ergonomic, but it also sports smaller and more responsive analog sticks, more comfortable triggers, and many other convenient new features like the touchpad, a built-in mono speaker, and a headphone jack. The Xbox One controller offers much subtler improvements to its predecessor, which isn't surprising given the Xbox 360's controller's reputation as being one of the best controllers of all time. Which isn't to say that the improvements aren't there. The new controller is much less bulky, and it also has more responsive shoulder buttons, more comfortable triggers, a headphone jack, and most importantly, a redesigned D-pad, which was the 360 controller's biggest flaw. And then there are the quality of life improvements as well, such as the micro-textured thumbsticks for better stability. So which controller is objectively better? Well, to pass any sort of judgment, we have to compare their most important features, these being the design, analog sticks, D-pads, shoulder buttons, and triggers, as well as some of the additional features they may not share. When it comes to design, we're mainly concerned with these 2 points, aesthetics and ergonomics. It's hard to determine which of these 2 controllers is superior in terms of visual appeal. That, of course, comes down to preference, and whether you like the DualShock 4's futuristic look or the Xbox One controller's minimalistic design. Still, what's not open for debate is that both of these controllers give off an impression of quality. It's worth noting, however, that Microsoft offers more variations on their design, and that users can even design their own controllers. While with Sony, it's more what you see is what you get. They're quite evenly matched with regards to ergonomics as well. They both fit comfortably in the user's hands, they both have micro-textured grips, and while the Xbox One controller is heavier of the two, the difference is hardly noticeable. With all this in mind, we just can't name either as the clear favorite when it comes to design, so this category is a tie. The placement of the analog sticks didn't change for either of the controllers, and again, we can only talk about preferences here. Both of these controllers saw improvements from their previous versions design-wise. The Xbox One sticks are more ergonomic now, and offer such prominent micro-texturing around the edges that it should be impossible for your thumbs to slip off. And the DualShock 4's thumbsticks aren't much worse, although they don't have quite as much micro-texturing. But functionality-wise, the DualShock 4 has the lead. Sony's analog sticks are more responsive, allowing for more precise movement. They're also a bit stiffer, meaning that they'll remain firm for a longer period of time. Nevertheless, there isn't enough to give the DualShock 4 a clear lead, and we just wouldn't feel right doing so over such a marginal difference. The analog sticks are also a tie. The role of the D-pad has changed dramatically over the years. Its core function used to be movement, and while it's still used for this in many 2D games, in 3D games it's generally been relegated to selecting items and weapons. The Xbox One controller has greatly improved on the 360's infamous D-pad, in terms of both design and functionality. But transitioning from one direction to another is still rigid and followed by loud clicks, which prevents it from being used comfortably for 2D movement. The DualShock 4 made only slight changes to its D-pad, but this is largely due to the DualShock 3's D-pad being nearly perfect. It's bigger and more tactile now, and while it's just as precise as the Xbox One controller's D-pad, changing directions comes smoothly and with barely any sound. It should be fairly obvious that the DualShock 4 wins this category. The shoulder buttons for both controllers saw some slight improvements. The biggest problem the Xbox 360 shoulder buttons had was that they were designed for clicking and not to be held down. This was remedied in the Xbox One controller, along with making these buttons larger and easier to press. On the other hand, they produce a loud click when pressed, which some people find distracting. The DualShock 4 got rid of pressure sensitivity used in previous generation shoulder buttons. The downside is that these new shoulder buttons now click as well, although more quietly. Shoulder buttons are again fairly even with the improvements to both of these controllers, making this category another tie. The triggers are where one of the biggest differences between these two controllers come in. If the D-pad was the weakest link in the 360 controller, then the same could be said for the poor triggers on the DualShock 3. This was largely due to their convex design, which made it very uncomfortable to hold them down for more than several seconds at a time. The DualShock 4 has done away with this, making the triggers much more ergonomic. However, the Xbox One controller's triggers are still several steps ahead. Not only are they larger, but their design is even more ergonomic. And on top of that, they possess a haptic feedback function, which can contribute greatly to player immersion, especially in racing games. The triggers are just better on the Xbox One controller. It's as simple as that. The category goes to the Xbox One controller. Aside from these core properties, we see it fair to also compare these controllers with regards to their additional features. The first one of these is the headphone jack. It's mainly a quality of life feature present in both controllers that allows for any wired audio device to be made wireless, from earbuds to headset. The Xbox One controller has a slight advantage here because it works just fine on PC with any Bluetooth adapter, while the DualShock 4 requires the official Sony Bluetooth dongle in order to work. The second of these features is motion detection. The DualShock 4 wins this category hands down with its built-in gyroscope and accelerometer combo. This allows for better camera movement and makes using a cursor way easier than it is on an analog stick. The third and final feature is the touchpad. Seeing as the DualShock 4 has this feature and the Xbox One controller doesn't, it's easy to guess who the winner is. But the touchpad isn't some gimmicky accessory. Apart from the camera and cursor control, it's also clickable and can serve as two buttons. Furthermore, a variety of in-game gestures can be performed via touchpad on some PS4 games. While the headphone jacks are more convenient for use on the PC with the Xbox One controller, the sheer wealth and functionality of additional features on the DualShock 4 makes it win this category by a landslide. As you can see, these controllers are fairly evenly matched in most categories. The only real distinctions come into play with the D-pad and the triggers. The DualShock 4 wins the D-pad war decisively, and the Xbox One controller has way better triggers. With 3 ties, just 1 category in favor of the Xbox One, and 2 categories going to the DualShock 4, we crown the latter as the better controller. While some might not find it fair that the DualShock 4 should win on the account of additional features, we simply can't overlook the fact that it offers everything the Xbox One controller does, and then some. But it's not like this is an exact science, and it will definitely come down to preference in the end. No amount of additional features could replace the Xbox One triggers when playing a racing game, just like there's no argument to be made in favor of using the Xbox One controller for 2D platforms. The most decisive factor will ultimately be you, and the games you want to play. So what do you think? Do you agree with our verdict, or do you think that the Xbox One controller is better in general? We'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. And if you find this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe.